Welcome to Rise and Thrive Women, journeying from surviving to thriving after abuse. We're your hosts, Susie and Heather, and we're so honored you're here. If you've experienced the heartache of toxic relationships, you know the feeling of being lost, broken, and unsure of where to turn next. And this podcast is for you.
We're here to inspire, educate, and empower women like you, no matter where you are in your healing journey. Together, we're going to challenge the misconceptions surrounding domestic abuse, explore practical solutions, and listen to incredible survivor stories that remind us all that there is a brighter, better future waiting for you. It's time to rise, thrive, and choose yourself. Let's begin this healing journey together.
Yes, let's do it. How are you doing?
I am wonderful. How are you?
I'm good. Making my way through the week. So,
Yeah.
How about you? Just how's your week been?
It's been really busy. I've been really eager to jump into Ask Us Anything, just for the simple fact of how much engagement we got the last couple of times that we've gone live, and just trying to put ourselves out there and ask other women out there in the domestic abuse realm how we can help them answer questions that they may have, or, heal, things like that. So
yeah, that's what we're here for today. So yeah, like you said, this is an Ask Us Anything episode. So those of you watching, we don't have any specific topics planned for today, but we hope to hear from you, and whatever questions you have, we would love to answer those. So you can feel free to ask away. Nothing's off limits. We would love to hear from you. So yeah. So with that, have you seen anything come through on your end yet?
No, not yet. I am streaming on Instagram and YouTube, but we can, if you want to dive into some of the most common struggles we see clients battle.
For sure. Yeah, we can talk about that. There are a few that come to mind. I'm trying to think what would I say? I don't even know if it's possible to pick the top thing that I see people struggling with, but I feel like what comes to mind first is just those early stages of getting out of a relationship with someone who's abusive or toxic that can be really hard for people. We are left with a lot of really conflicting emotions, just due to the nature of these relationships, because they are so up and down. They create what's called cognitive dissonance in the victim, where you feel confused because you feel both, like maybe you still love that person and you still care about that person, but you know that they're unhealthy for you. You may have a lot of anger and resentment and hatred towards the person. So you're left with just these really conflicting, confusing emotions. And what's at the core of that is a trauma bond. So a lot of people are trauma bonded to their abuser, where they still feel that pull towards them, even though they know that it's unhealthy. So trying to find ways to kind of stay strong in that situation, and ideally, most importantly, go no contact with the abuser, so that you can start making sense of the situation and get through that fog of confusion that you're in. I would say that's the most challenging time, is just those early weeks when you're kind of fresh out of the situation. So
yeah,
among other things, but that's kind of the first thing that came to my mind. So
like the withdrawal symptoms that they deal with, and not understanding why they are craving to be around someone that they know they don't need to be around anymore.
Right. Yeah. For sure. Makes you feel, I don't know, people will beat themselves up a lot for feeling that way, because they don't understand how they can still care about that person or feel drawn towards them after what's happened. So a lot of times we blame ourselves and beat ourselves up for even feeling that way. Yeah. So,
and if you're watching this and you're going through that, and you're, watching the replay of this, be sure to drop a comment. We do monitor our comments, even after these things are passed or posted. So if you feel like you're in that situation, please be sure to drop a comment, and Susie or myself will, gladly reply.
Yes.
So
What about you?
With that.
Yeah, anything that you would add to that, or I guess on the trauma bond specifically, or?
I wouldn't. I just, the reason I suggested people post their questions is more so because I feel like it's very specific, or, you know, to the individual. The symptoms are typically the same, but the scenarios are always different. And so I think until you hear specifically from that person what they're experiencing, it's just kind of hard. But I will just say this, there are withdrawal symptoms. There are mood fluctuations in that early phase after separation and trying to go no contact. And there are moments of weakness where you feel compelled to reach out or even respond. And it's completely normal. And if you are struggling with that, just drop a comment, ask us a question. You can schedule some one-on-one time. I think, Susie, did you put those links? I'm assuming you put those links in the.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. They're in our show notes.
Right. And if you're watching this on Intentional Healing with Heather, it's in my bio. The link to get to my one-on-one is in my bio.
Yeah.
So I would say the most common thing, there's so many, but the most common thing that I see across the board are people questioning whether or not they're a narcissist or whether or not they're crazy, right? Like those two things go hand in hand when I'm working with clients, and it shows up in forms of, do I sound crazy? Was that too much? Was I a bitch for saying that? Or am I a narcissist? Am I the narcissistic person? I will work on this if I need to, but
right.
I mean, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the problem, because the person that you're with, if you are with a narcissistic abuser, it's so hard to reason with them, and they are so competent in their arguments that they make us question our own sanity. So I think the most common struggle I see with people coming out of these relationships is trying to understand where they went wrong, trying to understand if they are crazy or if they are in fact narcissistic, because they keep having these issues or these conflicts come up over and over and over again.
Right.
And so they start to question their own sanity and their own autonomy, quite frankly. So I would say, well, before I even talk about dealing with that, do you have anything to add? Do you see that a lot too?
Well, oh yeah. I mean, I literally just had a client on, what day was that? Tuesday we met, who said something along the lines of, she asked if it was common or if it was a thing for two narcissists to find each other and get into a relationship together. And I was like, yeah, I think that can happen. I don't know the statistics or anything, like how frequently that actually happens. But then her follow-up question was, I don't know if she asked me directly, but she kind of implied or insinuated, well, maybe that's what happened in my case. Maybe I'm a narcissist. And I was like, girl, no. No, right. I've known you long enough now. I can confidently say you are not a narcissist. So yeah, I think it's a very common thing for people to question if they're the bad one, or the one causing the issues, because all of these different control and manipulation tactics lead you to believe that you're the problem.
Yeah, for sure. I will say, in those situations where if you are fearful that your ex is a narcissist and they are now kind of building a bridge with another narcissistic partner, one of those signs, what you'll see a lot of times, I will say this, is they will abuse the victim together. Like they kind of team up against the old supply, essentially. Right. Because I honestly, I don't think that people who take into account others' emotions and understand boundaries, I don't think that they actively insert themselves in other people's conflicts and try to fix problems for them. So I would say that's probably a really good sign that maybe if you're worried that your ex is with another narcissist and they're coming at you, together, that is a bonding experience for them.
Right.
Right. It's like
Right.
triangulation. It's creating that environment where there's a target, there's a rescuer, and there's a victim. The narcissist is always the victim. The new supply is always the rescuer, and the old supply is always the target. So that's just it is a common scenario, right? Because a lot of new partners want to come in and fix the narcissist's lives for them, and in doing so, they step in and they participate in abuse tactics.
Right. Absolutely. Enabling type behavior.
Yep.
Which we're going to do a whole episode on next month, I think, about enablers.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
So we'll be talking more about that.
Yeah. So if you guys are interested in that, make sure you subscribe to keep up with the topics that Susie and I talk about each week.
Yes. Yes. And I did see a question come in from my Facebook from Tracy. It says, she's asked, can a narcissist truly change, or am I hoping for something that won't happen? A very common question, I would say, right? Do you want to answer that one? You want me to answer that one? It doesn't matter. I think
I will give you a short answer. So
I'll give you a two-letter answer. Sorry. Huh? I was gonna say I'll give a 2-letter answer, but no, you go ahead. No.
So everyone is capable of change. However, when you have been with a narcissistic abuser for so long, change isn't common. It's not common because you've already set a precedence of what the relationship dynamic is. And the minute you begin to, assert boundaries and try to implement change, it triggers all kinds of abusive reactions from them. So the short answer is likely not. And even with people who have been diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, so the studies are, sorry, I said I was going to make this short. The studies are, they do make small changes over time, but this is like years of psychotherapy, years of showing up and making the effort to be there. And because most narcissists are so fragile, their egos are so fragile, and it makes them feel like something's wrong with them and they can't face those sort of things about themselves. A lot of times therapy is just, they won't go. So the short answer is it's likely never going to happen. Like the realistic answer is no. But can people change? Yes, they can. Typically, when they change, it's going to have to be through a hard series of hard lessons learned. And unfortunately, part of those lessons are people leaving them behind and forcing them to face their own shit. Sorry, go ahead.
Right. Yeah. And not requiring their partner to be part of that solution. And acknowledging that they were the ones that kind of created these dynamics and these issues in the relationship, which is also very hard for them to do. So I completely agree with you. I've done other posts and videos about this topic in particular, and that's my answer too, is it's not likely. And if you're holding out with that hope that they will change, there is some reality that needs to kind of set in at some point, and, knowing that it isn't likely. And are you willing to live with that situation, knowing that it most likely won't change? Or do you finally want to break free from that?
And if I can just put like my mom hat on for a second, I just want to say, you deserve better. Yeah, everyone deserves better than that. Everybody deserves a shared partnership of equal love and affection. With narcissistic abusers, it's always conditional, and that condition is compliance, right? Be compliant with their every demand, which over time becomes impossible unless you're willing to surrender all of the pieces of yourself. Um, so just from one woman to another, you absolutely deserve better. And while we do hold on to hope that we hold on to the hope that they're going to live out to this full potential that we have fallen in love with. We've fallen in love with some futuristic view of the potential of this person. And I just want to say that person exists. That person that is all of those things that you need them to be exists right now, just not in the narcissistic partner.
Right.
So there is a person out there that's willing to give all of those things that are supposed to be given in a relationship, in a shared relationship. So you deserve better, girl. That's all I'm going to say.
Absolutely. And there was a follow-up question about a specific manipulation tactic called the silent treatment. So the question is, how do I respond when the narcissist uses the silent treatment? So I'm happy to answer that one. I actually just put a video together I recorded a video. It's not out yet, but it will be out next week about this tactic in particular, the silent treatment, because it is such a common go-to tactic for narcissistic people to use. So my answer in terms of just how to respond to the narcissist if they use a silent treatment is to not respond, to not give a response, because that's ultimately what they're trying to do. They're trying to get you to grovel. They're trying to get you to chase them, to feel desperate for their response, for their attention, because that's exactly what the silent treatment is. It's a manipulation tactic. It's a power move. It's a move to try to gain control in the relationship dynamic by completely icing you out. So the best thing to do in that situation is to not respond. If and when they do decide to come around, most likely they will act as if nothing happened, because they expect you to feel so grateful that they're finally back, talking to you again, giving you that attention. So it's important at that point. And oftentimes when we're in that situation, you're so excited, so happy that they are giving you, paying attention to you again, that you'll kind of forget about the argument or, what caused the issue in the first place. And I would say, it's important at that point just to set the boundary that if that happens in the future, you're not here for it. You're not going to play those games, and it's not okay. It's not okay to ignore someone as a form of punishment.
Who was that question from?
It was a follow-up question from Tracy.
Okay.
Yeah. So sounds like
I would say typically they just want an emotional reaction, or they just are wanting you to feel guilty about God knows what, right? Like they just want you to walk on eggshells and feel guilty about something that maybe you shouldn't feel guilty about. And if you're in the relationship, if you really do suspect that you're in a relationship with a narcissist and you're getting silent treatment, I almost wouldn't even engage and say, unless you're willing to hold on to the boundary and telling them, hey, this can't happen. And then if it happens again, following through with whatever limitation you put on that boundary. If you're not, if you know that you're not ready to, follow through with that, then I would just not respond, right? It's one of those, the education piece is important for helping you cope, right? Like identifying what's happening as it's happening and kind of checking it off of your mental list. Like, oh, okay, I'm getting the silent treatment now because, I told him that I wasn't happy about something that he did. I was perfectly justified in saying this, and now I'm getting the silent treatment. And just having that little checklist in your mind to not feel guilty and drive yourself insane trying to figure out what you had done wrong, right? So I guess if you're in the relationship and you want to know how to respond, I think the right answer is just no response. That's an abuse tactic. If you know that you're tired of it and you're ready to, leave, then say, this
Right.
isn't acceptable and I'm not going to put up with it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I think the risk we run it's a tough situation to be in, because I completely agree with you that not acknowledging it is a strategy in dealing with the silent treatment. But the only danger to that is when they do come back around, and if you act like things are normal again, it reinforces to them that they can continue to do that.
Yeah.
So if it does depend a lot on kind of where you're at in that relationship, if you're planning on staying, or if you are, 1 foot out the door, how you handle that. But
wow, that's a really good point, Susie. Thank you.
Well, yeah, so was yours. There's no straightforward, clear answer. It always does depend on a lot of different variables, but there's different ways of approaching it, and gaining your power back. I think that's a big thing, because it's meant to make you feel powerless. So trying to gain some of that back in the process is important. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. We had Hillary comment. Hillary, how are you? Hillary says, I think holding on to hope just opens up for more manipulation and gaslighting and future faking. Wouldn't know how to tell the difference between change and changing. So this is going back to, can a narcissist truly change? Yeah.
Oh, okay. I understand because so there's a temporary, whenever there's a conflict and you're like, they feel like they're losing control. I think Hillary, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what she's saying is they do change temporarily to keep you from walking out the door. And then you see that change, but then things go back to, the nightmare that they once were. Is that what you meant, Hillary?
Yeah. And it seems like, what she's saying is it's hard to tell. I think when we're in these relationships, the narcissist oftentimes will say, I've changed, I've done all this work, I'm different now. And it's hard to know what to believe, if they're actually have changed or not. In most cases they haven't. But I feel like, the best way to know is looking at their actions. Words are just words. So that's what I always tell people. Look at, are they actually making changes in their behavior? Are they apologizing sincerely? Are they taking drastic steps towards changing, getting help they need? All those things are signs that they're going the right direction, but words are just words. So yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Hillary,
and I would even point out, what you just described, Hillary, is a cycle. It's not changed behavior. It's a cycle, and it's a cycle of abuse. And that's kind of how you can tell the different, because people who are really committed to change, you'll see a noticeable change that's consistent, right? You'll also see someone, even if they accidentally make a mistake, out of habit, say, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. Or, like they will catch themselves and say, I agreed not to do that anymore. I apologize. I am actively working on this. I think the main thing that anyone watching who may be going through this and questioning it is, if you see that cycle of when things are really bad and they change temporarily to appease you so that you'll stay, and then the behaviors go back, and then you are verbally abused or emotionally abused whenever you point out, hey, we said we weren't going to do this anymore. That's a cycle.
Absolutely. Yes, that's a great point. Totally. Any other
I need
things?
to check Instagram. Let me see if I have any questions over here. Nope. Nope. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to drop them below.
Yeah, we're here to answer all your burning questions. I woke up to like 2 inches of snow in Chicagoland today. Isn't that amazing?
Oh my God. I woke up and watered all of my plants this morning that are growing.
Oh, I'm so jealous. It was like 70 over the weekend, and then we got snow last night. So there's still snow on the ground. Not to totally change the subject, but I thought we had a little lull. I had to share my pain of living in the Midwest.
Oh, you should have sent me a picture.
I know, I should have. I was too depressed to snap one this morning when I saw it. So
2 inches? You got 2 inches?
I think so. Yeah, it's like the really nasty, slushy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are the temperatures rising though? It won't refreeze, right?
No, it's supposed to be like 60 tomorrow, so it'll probably all melt
Oh,
soon. So
good deal.
yeah. Anyways, I'm like just talking about weather here, but
Yeah.
anyone who's watching who has questions, feel free to ask. We would love to.
Oh, Amy's back. Hey, Amy.
Hi,
We
Amy.
have a comment. Mine just left once again after not getting his way. Yep, that happens.
Mm-hmm.
That happens.
Yeah, it's a good, I mean, it sounds like you're setting some boundaries and putting your foot down on things, whether it's behavior or whatever it might be, and they don't like it, which is a good way to find out who that person really is, right? Setting boundaries and speaking up and using your voice. So good for you for doing that. How are you coping? Is this from Amy?
No, this is from 72 Tams. I think that's how you pronounce it. And she just said he got his own apartment and we broke up. He now has his own apartment. Well, good. I mean, it's a really good point. So that's actually really common too, right? Just for anyone who may still be in a relationship, when you start to set boundaries, that is actually, if you don't leave the relationship and you decide I'm going to assert boundaries for my own sanity and my own well-being, many times they will leave because they feel like they've lost control and they will go try to find supply elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah. If you want to share how you're feeling and how you're coping, and if you have any questions, feel free to do that.
Now I'm saying that I want my apartment and now he wants me to move in with him. Yeah. That is absolutely an isolation tactic and a dependency tactic. Steer clear of that one.
What was the comment that he's
moved out and he wants her to move in with him now, like leave her place and go to his in a different city.
Okay.
Set boundaries. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I did. Told him I'm not dealing with his mood swings and dirty looks. Good for you.
Yeah.
That's where it starts too. It always starts like subtle with like tones or looks or, snarky comments. That's how it starts.
Right.
And then as time goes on, it worsens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would, like you said, I would be concerned with that request to have her uproot herself and move to his area, a different city, like that could definitely be trying to isolate you. We were just talking about that with the Gabby Petito case a few weeks ago. That was one of the first kind of red flags was, him getting her isolated first in Florida and then on that accelerating that van life that they were going to lead and getting her completely away from her support system. So tread very carefully there.
Tammy, Tammy said, I wish I could join your chat, need help. So we have a free group on Facebook. If you are on my Instagram. So if you go to my bio, you should see in my link tree, there's, if you wanted to book a one-on-one, you could. If you wanted to join our Facebook community, you can. Susie and I have taken a little bit of a break. I actually deleted Facebook for a little bit. I've got it on my list to download the app again. I had to take a mental health break, guys. It was too much. But there is a link to that Facebook group, and there is a link to book a quick 45-minute one-on-one if you're interested in that. We'd love to have you over in our Facebook group. That is one way to make sure that you don't miss our lives and to kind of stay in touch too.
Mm-hmm. And we have some exciting things brewing too, in terms of a more private group membership type program where we'll have specific support groups, lots of resources, educational materials. So
yes,
if you follow and subscribe to Heather and I, you'll get updates on the launch of that membership. It's going to be happening in the coming months here. So super exciting. Yeah. I had one other question come up. Did you have anything else come through on your end?
Amy's just given us updates. Amy, I love that we get to see you every Thursday. She said not much has changed since last time I checked in with you two. Still waiting on the divorce in June. So you'll have to let us know whenever you finalize that. I think you should be able to send me a message on Instagram too. So feel free to do that.
Yes, we'll celebrate for you too. It'll be so good to have that done. Oh, such a relief when that happens.
Yeah, Tammy said that sounds great because for a while I thought it was me. We actually, Tammy, I don't know if you saw the first part of our live, but that was one of the things that we talked about that a lot of people struggle with. Mine was the most common thing I see women struggle with is trying to figure out if they are the narcissist or if they are crazy. So that's actually really common.
Right. Totally.
Hiding income. So Amy is still trying to get divorced and he's still hiding his income. So it's going to be a long road. Hopefully, hopefully not too much longer. You have until June, right? It will all be over soon.
It's so common too, the whole financial abuse and failure to disclose those types of things. I have a friend here in my local area who's part of my local support group who dealt with that same thing in her divorce. But there are ways of getting to the bottom of it. Unfortunately, it does just take a little more time, but get that forensic accountant on them.
And I think the last time we talked about that, Amy, I'm pretty sure it was your question that came through. The one thing I said was those things always tend to catch them in the end, right? It's like a small reward for them now, or I guess it's something quick and easy for them to get away with up front, but long term, it does not end well for them. So keep on keeping on, Amy.
Yes, hang in there. It'll be over at some point, hopefully soon. The question that came through on my end was from AZ, and the question is, I keep getting narcissists in my life. How do I break this cycle? So somebody who seems to find a pattern, it sounds like there's a pattern in terms of getting into these toxic relationships. So trying to think what comes to mind for me to break the cycle of stopping getting into these types of relationships. I would say first, take some time for yourself. Take some time to heal. If you've been into these toxic relationships, chances are you've got some healing to do, which we all do after coming out of them. Get with a therapist, a coach, build your support system. Make sure you're surrounding yourself with people who understand this type of abuse, and they're there to support you. And then just get really crystal clear on what you want in a relationship. When the time does come for you to start dating again, really get clear on what you expect. What are your core needs in a relationship? And what are those major red flags that are going to be absolute no's for you if somebody displays them? Whether it's, being unkind to people, not respecting your boundaries, being, yelling, name calling, whatever those like absolute deal breakers are for you, get crystal clear on those too. So that way, as you start entertaining dating again and those things come up, you'll be able to easily identify them and use your voice, use your power of no, and stand firm and walk away. So that's what I would advise. But what about you, Heather?
As a person who has felt exactly that way, I will say, first, if you're interested, I wrote a book. It's called Finding Your Power Through Trauma, the 9-step guide of healing from toxic and narcissistic relationships. It's available on Amazon. It's kind of the guide that I wish that I had, and there are journal prompts at the end of every chapter if you are interested in doing some of the hard work. Holistically, I will say that the power lies within yourself, and being able to, I used to think that self-love, like terms like self-love sounded so cliche, but it is eminent that you learn what that means. And because what it boils down to is we are searching for relationships and effort to complete us. And I guess the point I want to drive home is you are complete without having a relationship. And the mindset that you need to have when you go into dating is that you are whole and you are complete, and you don't need a relationship to validate that you're worth loving.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's where I want to start, because typically when you find yourself in narcissistic relationships, what keeps us in the relationship for so long, or at least with me, okay, I don't want to project my experience on everybody else, but so with me, it was more so feeling like I was fulfilling a need, like my worth as a person and my ability to feel worthy of being loved came from how much someone else needed me. It came from a place of, you know, I'm doing something to help fill a void in someone else's life. And
Mm-hmm.
as long as I was filling everyone else's holes, I
Mm-hmm.
felt whole, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah.
But what it did to me ultimately, where it led me, is into a place where I just completely lost every part of myself. Like I didn't even know who I was anymore. And then whenever I would, because of that, like that would lead me into more relationships of just, you know, accepting whoever was willing to want me first. And so, how do you prevent yourself from falling trap, you know, into another narcissistic relationship? I would say you have to become whole, as you know, in your own sovereignty. You have to become who
Mm-hmm.
you are, realize who you are again, love yourself for that, and then proceed with relationships. Because it's
Right.
easier to say, no, that's not really a good fit. Those behaviors, you know, those aren't for me. I'm not willing to accept those behaviors. And
Right.
because I didn't know how to do that before, I wound up with whoever was willing to accept me. So
Mm-hmm.
I hope that
Yeah.
helps.
I think that's great advice. Absolutely. Yeah. It's kind of like you hear people say, date yourself first. And I think that's really important too. Like spending time with yourself after these relationships and getting comfortable being alone, finding hobbies, finding things that you really enjoy doing, and loving your life. Because like you said, if you love your life and you love spending time with yourself, you're not going to tolerate somebody wiggling their way into that who is going to just upend everything and destroy that peace and happiness that you've got. So
Yeah.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Um, oh yeah. Tammy said mine took me for over 20,000 helping him with collections. And when I mention it, he gets all mad and doesn't want to
Hmm.
discuss. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. That's tough.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Do we have any other questions? Here, let me come back to the studio.
I don't see anything on my side. No. Do you see anything else on your end?
Nope.
No. Okay.
Have some people tuning in, but
Yeah.
no questions.
Well, thanks for being here. Do we want to wrap up at this point?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
just really quickly, if for those watching, again, we have a link to our free support group. It's in my bio for those on Instagram. YouTube, I think it's also in my bio. I have a few different links out there. What was I going to say? I was going to say we have the link to the support group, and what else? Oh, our
Yeah.
one-on-ones. If anything
Yeah.
that Susie and I said, sorry, this isn't always scripted, but
Yeah.
so if any of the things that Susie and I have mentioned today resonated with you, there are links there's a link in my bio on Instagram and YouTube. Susie also has a link to her one-on-one sessions as well. And we would love to see you in our group. And I
Yes,
don't
come
have any
join
more
us.
questions, so
Come
I'm going
hang
to
out.
close us out. What?
Okay. I'm sorry, just to mention too, if I think I said this beginning, we're doing these monthly. So if
Yep.
you did enjoy this Ask Us Anything, subscribe to us. You'll see when we post that we're going to be doing an Ask Us Anything. So you can save up your questions and ask them away if you want to join us again next month. So
Yep. We'd love to have
all right.
you. Oh,
Yes.
also, if you're catching the replay, please feel free to continue to drop your questions.
Yes.
It may inspire us to create an entire show on the topic. You never know. So
For sure. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us on this episode of Rise and Thrive Women. We hope today's conversation has inspired you to take charge of your healing journey, whether it's new perspective, renewed hope, or the courage to move forward. It is something worth celebrating.
And remember, your story is still unfolding and your past does not define you. Within you lies strength, power, and limitless potential. So embrace it. Trust and follow your intuition with courage. Be bold, be brave, and always trust yourself. Until we meet again, take care, rise above, and thrive. You've got this.
Thanks,
All
everybody.
right. We'll see you all next time. See you next time.